Most people believe a new year begins when the clock strikes midnight on January 1st. They think change starts with dates, resolutions, or a new calendar page. But in the quantum world, timelines don't follow time. They follow identity. And that means your 2026 has already started forming inside you long before 2025 ends. Your next reality doesn't begin with the year. It begins with the frequency you carry into it. There is a window, a pre-shift window, where your future timeline becomes unusually sensitive to your internal state. You don't feel this window with your mind. You feel it in the subtle ways your energy begins rearranging. You feel it when old desires no longer fit the way they used to. You feel it when life pushes you inward, not because something is wrong, but because your field is preparing for a higher configuration. You feel it when the universe becomes quieter, more precise, more intentional, as if reality is holding its breath. This window is happening now, before 2025 ends. And the way you move through it determines whether 2026 becomes the biggest quantum shift of your life or another loop of the same patterns. Quantum physics mirrors this idea. Before a system collapses into a stable state, it enters a period of heightened sensitivity called pre-coherence. Small changes in the field have massive effects on the outcome. Emotional energy works the same way. When you're on the edge of a new identity, even the slightest shifts in your emotional baseline ripple into your timeline with amplified force. You don't become your future self on January 1st. You become them in the quiet transitions before the year flips. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain doesn't wait for new beginnings. It predicts your next year based on the emotional patterns you're carrying right now. If your emotional baseline is rooted in the identity of 2025, in its fears, its limitations, its survival reflexes, your brain will replicate the same internal landscape in 2026. Not because you're weak or unmotivated, but because your nervous system craves familiarity. It knows how to survive 2025. It doesn't yet know how to embody 2026. This is why so many people enter a new year feeling ready for transformation, yet nothing changes. They carry the past into the future without noticing. They enter the new year with the same emotional coding. They recreate the same outcomes because their body never shifted. But you're not here for another year of repetition. You're here because 2026 is not just another chapter, it's a quantum turning point. Some years hold a different frequency. They operate like portals, where timelines open more easily, identities dissolve more rapidly, and the gap between thought and manifestation becomes thinner. These years feel different before they even start, like pressure building deep inside your awareness, like a quiet invitation from the universe, like the sense that the version of you who's been waiting behind your ribs is finally ready to step forward. 2026 is one of those years, not because of astrology, numerology, or collective hype, but because your personal field is ripe. Your identity is already reaching for a new harmonic. You've been shedding layers, questioning narratives, releasing noise, and sensing intuitively that a larger version of you is preparing to emerge. What you're feeling is not random. It's not coincidence. It's coherence forming. The quantum responds to coherence before it responds to willpower, and your coherence is rising. But here's the part most people overlook. Timelines don't wait for January. They lock in early. Who you are in the final stretch of this year determines what 2026 can become for you. If you enter it with the emotional residue of your past, the year will bend around that residue. If you enter with presence, openness, and energetic clarity, the year will bend around that. The universe isn't choosing your timeline. Your frequency is. Your 2026 reality is already forming in the background. Your choices, your state, your emotional tone in these final weeks of 2025 determine whether you shift into a timeline of expansion or remain entangled with old patterns. The quantum field doesn't reward effort, it mirrors identity. And right now, identity is more malleable than usual. This window won't last. You are standing at a threshold, one where the past is losing its grip and the future is leaning toward you. But crossing this threshold requires one thing: a shift inside yourself that must happen before the year ends. Because 2026 will be the biggest quantum shift of your life. If you do this, as you move closer to 2026, There is a mechanism inside you that becomes more active than usual, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your system is trying to protect you. The body always attempts to carry the emotional tone of the previous year into the next one. It does this because the familiar feels safe, even when it's exhausting. This is the identity drag, the gravitational pull of who you've been, trying to keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. This identity drag is subtle. It doesn't show up as dramatic self-sabotage or obvious fear. It shows up as hesitation, as overthinking, as emotional inertia, as the quiet urge to repeat old patterns because the nervous system hasn't yet learned how to feel safe inside your next-level identity. The mind may be excited for 2026, but the body remembers 2025, and it will try to recreate it unless you consciously break the loop. Neuroscience explains this through predictive coding. Your brain relies on emotional memory to forecast what your life will look like. It assumes that the future should emotionally resemble the past because that's how it maintains stability. If the emotional signature of 2025 is still active within you, if your breath patterns, stress responses, habits, and underlying beliefs haven't shifted, your brain will automatically recreate a life that matches those signals. Even your intuition becomes filtered through the old identity. That's why people start a new year saying, "This time I'll change everything," only to fall back into the same cycles by February. They entered the year with the same frequency. They tried to shift behavior without shifting identity. They tried to manifest the new while still resonating with the old. Quantum physics mirrors this perfectly. An old frequency collapses into old outcomes. A new frequency collapses into new timelines. But you can't collapse a new reality when you're still vibrating as the previous version of yourself. The field doesn't respond to goals. It responds to resonance. Identity drag happens because your current identity tries to protect its structure. Every identity, even the versions you've outgrown, has a survival wiring. Your system believes that if it keeps you emotionally similar to last year, it can keep you safe. You may consciously desire expansion, love, money, opportunity, awakening, but if your nervous system learned survival through contraction, scarcity, or vigilance, it will unconsciously recreate those states. This is why 2026 cannot become your turning point unless you break the emotional momentum of 2025. You cannot enter a new timeline carrying the vibration of an old one. You cannot expect quantum change while embodying the same patterns, the same reflexes, the same inner stories. Your life won't shift until you shift. And identity is always the first point of transformation. But here's the good news. Identity drag is not a barrier. It's a sign that you're close to the threshold. The tension you feel is not resistance. It's the friction of two selves interacting. The self you're growing out of and the self you're growing into. This friction is the birthplace of quantum leaps. It means your system is reorganizing. It means the old frequency is destabilizing. It means the new one is strengthening. The key is recognizing the drag before it shapes your entire 2026. Identity drag feels like wanting change but feeling tired for no reason, sensing potential but defaulting to old habits, imagining a new future but emotionally staying where you are, receiving intuitive nudges but delaying action, knowing what you need to do but hesitating to embody it, feeling the pull of expansion but collapsing back into comfort. This is not weakness. This is biology. Your old identity is making one last attempt to keep you in familiar territory, because once you cross into your 2026 frequency, that identity dissolves. It loses its job, and no part of your psyche wants to disappear. The good news is, the moment you consciously interrupt identity drag, your energy snaps back into alignment, your field clears, your timeline accelerates, and the old emotional signatures lose their ability to recreate your reality. So let's anchor your interrupt point right now, in a way your nervous system can feel. Type in the comments, "I won't carry 2025 into 2026. This is not a slogan. It's a signal, a declaration to your system that the old emotional coding no longer decides the architecture of your next year. Because once you break identity drag, the doorway to the biggest quantum shift of your life opens, and 2026 begins responding immediately. There is one shift, one internal adjustment. that determines whether 2026 becomes the year you break through or the year you repeat. It's not a ritual, not a technique, not a goal, and not a mindset hack. It's a biological, emotional, and energetic switch that completely changes the way your field interacts with reality. When this shift activates, the universe doesn't slowly respond. It reorganizes instantly. This is the quantum trigger. The moment you stop relating to your future from desire and start relating to it from identity. Before 2025 ends, you must activate this trigger. Because once the year turns, the emotional patterns you carry into 2026 will solidify into your timeline. In the quantum world, timelines crystallize around emotional baselines, not intentions. Your emotional baseline on December 31st becomes the seed frequency that 2026 grows from. If the seed is coherent, the year expands. If the seed is conflicted, the year contracts. The quantum trigger is the shift from wanting the future to broadcasting it. Most people stay stuck in wanting, even when they think they're manifesting. Wanting is a frequency of absence. Wanting broadcasts lack. Wanting tells the field, I am not yet the version of myself who has this, and the quantum responds by continuing to reflect that gap back to you. That's why some desires feel farther the more you think about them, because thinking from lack amplifies the distance. The trigger is the moment you stop projecting your future outward and start holding it inward as an embodied state. This shift is subtle but seismic. It changes your posture, your breath, your emotional tone, your decision-making, your field coherence. You are no longer chasing your future. You're broadcasting it. And the universe cannot resist a stable broadcast. To understand this, you must look at coherence. In physics, coherence means that all parts of a system are vibrating in synchrony without interference. A coherent system is powerful, stable, influential. When your identity becomes coherent, when your thoughts, emotions, and body all align with the version of you who already lives your 2026 reality, the field recognizes you instantly. It collapses timelines around your signal without hesitation. The quantum trigger is coherence replacing contradiction. You've felt its edges before, those brief moments when you suddenly stop overthinking and feel deeply anchored in who you're becoming. A moment where the future feels less like a dream and more like a memory you haven't lived yet. A moment where your breath drops, your chest softens, your awareness expands, and you feel an inner yes that is quieter but more authoritative than any thought. That moment is your true state. Everything else is conditioning. Neuroscience explains that when you step into identity-level coherence, the brain shifts out of prediction mode and into presence-driven self-mapping. You stop forecasting danger. You stop replaying the past. You stop rehearsing emotional patterns that contradict your expansion. Instead, your brain begins generating signals that match your future identity as if it already exists. And because your nervous system doesn't differentiate between imagined and embodied states, your body begins broadcasting that identity into the field. This is where manifestation accelerates, because the universe doesn't respond to what you imagine, it responds to what you embody. The trigger happens when the body accepts the future as its new normal. But here's why this shift must happen before 2025 ends. The longer your system stays in emotional alignment with your old identity, the more your 2026 timeline will be shaped by that identity. The turning of a year does not reset your vibration. Your body carries its emotional memories forward unless you consciously rewrite them. So how do you activate the quantum trigger? You stop asking, what do I want in 2026, and begin asking, who am I in 2026? And how does that version of me feel right now? That single shift dissolves lack. It dissolves waiting. It dissolves old emotional attachments. It dissolves identity drag. You begin breathing as your 2026 self. You begin observing as your 2026 self. You begin walking, deciding, holding boundaries, and resting as that version. You stop negotiating with the identity you've outgrown. You stop giving emotional attention to timelines that no longer belong to you. The quantum trigger is the moment you switch from rehearsing the past to transmitting the future. This embodiment doesn't need intensity. It doesn't need hype. It doesn't need high emotion. It needs clarity. It needs neutrality. It needs presence. The calmer you are, the faster the trigger activates, the quieter your signal, the more coherent it becomes. The less you try to control your timeline, the more your timeline reorganizes. You'll know the quantum trigger has activated when the future feels closer than your memories. You stop negotiating with your goals. Fear loses its emotional charge. Doubt feels irrelevant rather than intimidating. Your decisions become clean and uncomplicated. You begin expecting expansion rather than hoping for it. When this shift locks in, 2026 doesn't just become another year. It becomes the year your life rewrites itself from the inside out. You are not preparing for 2026. You are becoming the version of you who 2026 is already aligned with. There comes a moment, usually quiet, usually unexpected, when your future stops feeling like something distant and starts feeling like something that's already chosen you. Not because you visualize it constantly, not because you force yourself to believe in it, but because something inside you reorganizes. Your emotional gravity shifts. Your field stabilizes. Your body stops bracing. And suddenly, the version of you who belongs to 2026 doesn't feel like a possibility. It feels like a presence. This is the moment you cross the 2026 reality line, the invisible boundary between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's not determined by time. It's not determined by effort. It's determined by embodiment. The moment you emotionally step into the identity that resonates with your 2026 timeline, the quantum field begins rearranging itself around you with a speed that feels impossible to the logical mind. But it's not impossible. It's coherent. Coherence always feels miraculous to the parts of you that are still used to living in resistance. Crossing the 2026 reality line is not about waiting for the year to begin. It's about becoming the person who can hold the year you've been asking for. People who don't understand this will enter 2026 with the emotional residue of 2025 and wonder why nothing changes. They'll repeat the same cycles because their body is still broadcasting the same signature. They'll try to set goals, make plans, force new habits, but all those efforts will orbit around the same vibrational center. But the you who is listening to this, the you who feels something awakening, is not meant to repeat anything. You are meant to upgrade your baseline. You are meant to collapse timelines. You are meant to move into a version of yourself that the universe has been preparing to meet. Your 2026 reality is already formed in the quantum. It exists as a fully structured frequency, waiting for the identity that matches it. The more you embody that identity now, before the year turns, the faster your timeline accelerates when you step into January. Reality doesn't wait for the future. It responds to the frequency you hold today. This is why some people experience sudden breakthroughs in the first weeks of a new year. They entered with coherence. Their field matched the upgrade. The universe didn't need time. It needed alignment. And once alignment is present, time compresses. Timelines collapse. Reality moves. So what does it mean to embody your 2026 self now? It means shifting from survival to presence. It means releasing emotional narratives from years you've already outgrown. It means relaxing the defenses that once kept you safe but now keep you small. It means letting go of the identity that was built from fear rather than possibility. It means transmitting your future instead of chasing it. When you embody the you who belongs to 2026, you stop waiting for signs because you are the sign. You stop waiting for the right moment because you become the moment. You stop asking for permission from your past and start receiving direction from your future. Your inner world becomes your new calendar. Your frequency becomes your new clock. Your identity becomes your new timeline. And once this embodiment stabilizes, life starts responding intelligently. Opportunities appear with uncanny timing. Obstacles dissolve faster than they form. People who belong to your next level enter your field effortlessly. Old emotional patterns fall away without struggle. Synchronicities cluster around your path like coordinates. This is not luck. This is coherence made visible. Your job is not to force your 2026 reality into existence. It's to become the version of you who naturally lives inside it. When that identity becomes more emotionally real than your past, The quantum field has no choice but to reorganize itself around you. Reality bends, timelines shift, life elevates, and this is the moment where your journey moves from concept to embodiment. If you want to deepen this shift, if you want to stabilize your new identity, dissolve the emotional interference of your old timeline, and step into 2026 with coherence rather than chaos, then what you need isn't more information. It's energetic architecture. It's a blueprint for embodiment. It's a way to hold the frequency of your next level without collapsing back into the patterns of your previous self. Everything you need to close this year with clarity and step into 2026 as your most aligned self is inside the Quantum Rebirth Transformation Guide. This is the ebook I designed to help you release what no longer serves, reset your frequency, and activate the identity that's been quietly waiting to emerge. If this video stirred something in you, the book is your next step. You'll find the link waiting in the pinned comment. If your energy feels open, follow that. This is the doorway, and 2026 is ready for you to walk through it.